Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Guitar Souls podcast. This is episode 26, Mike.
I think that's about right.
Yeah.
Something near there,
It's almost like we checked this time.
Yeah, almost like we're professionals.
I was sitting and thinking maybe we could just start labelling them as number of the year. So this would be the second one of the year. But no, 26. That's
do
like,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, fuck it.
We're going for quite a while.
The second episode in January 19.
Yeah. So my name is Levi Clay. You all know me, obviously. And this is my good buddy, Mike McLaughlin of Party Cannon fame. We like talking about guitar. We like raging about things. And you know what else we like? Rev amplification.
Oh.
So I remember to do it this
yes,
time.
babe. Yes.
Rev amplification, good friends of the show.
Absolutely.
And yes, give the gift of Rev. I mean, Christmas is gone now. I'm still dying for my amp to show up.
Absolutely. I can understand why. Did you see that Jeff Loomis has been sitting with a beautiful red vinyl? You bad man.
Yeah, I'm setting the perfect... For anyone watching us on video rather than listening, my pedal board is behind us today, and there's that big gap in the middle, and that is set up ready for my Rev generator 120 foot switch.
And what's that beautiful purple pedal just underneath where that pedal's going to go?
Rev G3, fantastic.
Oh, you're right.
The problem with that Rev G3, and there is a big problem with that Rev G3, right, is I don't know how much it is. I forget. But I know it's a lot cheaper than the actual amplifier. Mm-hmm. And it's as good. It's amazing.
I'm not going to lie, man. I've had mines at band practice and the crank has basically been put to the side. Just got like a clean power amp, that pedal into it, and it's just... It's like a punch in the head.
It's worth pointing out, this isn't even paid product placement. Like,
no, not at all.
They don't give us any money for us to talk about them on the show. They're just good people. So... I'm buzzing for my Rev to show up. So anyway, we're getting sidetracked.
Mm-hmm. So we often do.
Yeah, we have a lot of cool things to talk about today.
As ever.
We have train wrecks like Tosin and Abasi and Frank Falbo's public spat.
Not good. And obviously a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, as
always.
series
of things.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the nature of all business, I suppose. We've got Rio Kangus's very interesting valve-powered pickup. That's going to be a good one to read about.
Yeah, we can talk about HMV. You know, hitting the shit.
Mm-hmm. And even more bad business, talking about Moore and electroharmonics, having a little bit of a spat.
Yeah, that is an incredibly interesting one. Mm-hmm. And then following on from what we did last episode, which people actually seem to really enjoy, where we looked through some old Total Guitar magazines.
Maybe it's
We've got a couple
nostalgia.
more Total Guitar magazines to look through. So a couple of other things that we might bring up just as time goes on for fun. But why don't we hop into the cringe?
You lead the way, my friend. Lead the way.
Abasi guitars, Abasi concepts now, I believe. Now,
it's a clever way to avoid having to deal with the fact that the guitars didn't go well.
Yeah.
Just rename the business.
We have a concept. The concept is guitars, but we don't have any yet.
It's like the guys that go into Dragon's Den and they're like, I want 2% for part of my business. And then they talk about how the business is actually called Concept, but you're only buying 2% of that product. Yeah. And then the sharks go, no, buy.
Yeah. So it's worth pointing out that we obviously featured the Abasi guitars thing in the past.
Yes.
When there were quality control issues. Actually, I think we even maybe spoke about them when the brand initially launched. I know, obviously, we'd spoken about it privately because I was highly skeptical of it when they initially launched.
Yeah. There was obviously concerns of it. And the way it happened, obviously, it being the case that Tosin had signature Ibanez, the TAM 10, the Tab 100.
Yeah.
Then this new one had been designed, and I think that had been NAM... let's say 16 maybe 17 he was seen playing the new shaped one,
Ibanez prototype.
Yeah, and it was at that kind of almost marbleized finish.
Yeah,
beautiful guitar to be fair. And then all of a sudden he's wanting to build the same shape somewhere else.
Yeah, we were speculating on whether they were going to be like cheap Korean, like Chapman style or Solar Guitars style, or if he was going to go the custom shop route. And evidently he went the custom shop route. And we were very vocal about that probably not being the best idea.
No, not for a brand new brand.
Hate to say I told you so. All right. Yeah.
It's a good song.
That's a 2003 thing going there.
Oh, you and your memory.
That'll be in one of those magazines. You mark my words.
I guarantee it.
Yeah. So, well, we did a couple of videos on that, and when the quality control issues came out, that resulted in a couple of mutual friends kind of putting me in touch, or putting Frank Falbo in touch with me, just so he could kind of tell his side of the story. And I did an interview with Frank on my YouTube channel to give him an opportunity to have a platform.
I think that was fair, because the concerns weren't like here's an absolute like undeniable fact this is wrong. The questions were very or that the pictures were even quite ambiguous,
Yeah.
if you remember.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good way for it to go for Frank and for yourself.
Yeah. In this
Obviously.
particular instance, essentially there's been a fallout between Tosin and Frank, and a settlement was reached between the two of them and they parted ways. But we're going to read the post in a second. But Tosin went on. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen someone go for the jugular as publicly as this. This is brutal to read.
Oh yeah, I'm going to use a term that the kids use. He was put on blast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not make any comments until we've read through it.
Well, yeah, I thought, but what I'm getting at is it would have been easy for me to have Frank on the show. I could have talked to Frank or I could have done an interview with Frank, but you know what? It just didn't seem like the right thing to do. I was more than willing to ask for comment, but I didn't want to, Tosin attacked him on the 7string.org forums, and he had the opportunity to defend himself on the 7string.org forums, and he chose not to. And part of me can understand why. Trying to take the high road, especially when you work with other companies, and you don't want to, I'm sure he just wants this to quieten down rather than slinging mud.
Of course. It's good to respect his wishes in terms of just not engaging with it at the moment yet either, until...
Yeah. It's not what I would have done. I would have gone fucking nuclear.
Yeah,
but
you would have had about 10 videos about it.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't have gone. Ultimately, there's no right way to deal with this.
Of course not. Of course not.
And what I'm gonna lay my cards on the table right from the get go. I am completely undecided, and I even told Frank this. He said, what do you think about what I've said to you? Do you understand where I'm coming from? And I said, to be honest, mate, I don't know. Even when questions. I had a call with him, I said, in a situation like this, as this is verging on legal issues, there's two sides to a story, and the truth will lie somewhere in the middle. I'm not saying that you're lying, but I'm saying that your perspective on where things are and Tosin's perspectives on things where things are probably both of you aren't 100% correct.
Oh, totally, because it doesn't matter how professional you are, emotions very easily cloud the memory of what you're doing business-wise, and it can so easily be spun to yourself that you don't even notice sometimes. Anyway. But
before we do Frank, you remember that when Abasi Guitars launched, there was someone else involved?
Remind me of his name.
So the gentleman's name...
As Andy Alt?
Andy Alt, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Used to work with Steve Vai, Steve Vai's marketing manager.
The silent partner that isn't a partner and is silent?
Yeah, the partner that isn't involved anymore. Seemed to have been forced out of the company in the early stages. I thought that was fishy then, and I think the entire situation now, somebody else has been forced out of the company, is I always say the same thing. If you're in a relationship, or no, let's not say you're in a relationship. If in life you're constantly arguing with every single person you know, your friends, your family, your wife,
are you the
people
common
in the
denominator?
shops, you're the common denominator here. Evidently people just can't get on with you, and there's but anyway, let's give Tosin a fair shake. However unprofessional this is, let's give it a go.
It's incredibly unprofessional. It's just so, in my opinion, just to keep myself safe, in my opinion, this is not clearing the air or trying to make Abasi concepts right with the world. This is pretty much character assassination.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, however, as I say, we don't know everything that's going on.
I think it's also worth pointing out we know exactly why this happened. We should say this beforehand. This has happened because after Abasi Guitars split ways with Frank Valbo has come out and released his own run of ERG, extended range guitars.
You mean a luthier is building guitars?
Yes, but to be fair to Tosin, this is the first ever solid body electric run that Frank has done. He's known and respected as an acoustic expert, and he's done extended range acoustic things before, so it's not new to him. But yeah, he's done this, and I imagine that Tosin is probably pretty pissed off when he saw Frank releasing something similar to what he's doing.
Yeah, but
this isn't the answer.
And Tosin isn't the only person who's ever done a solid body extended range guitar.
Yeah.
There are many other companies, especially these days.
I mean, you'll notice that when Abasi Guitars launched, Ibanez didn't post something like this about Tosin.
Exactly.
So let me give it a read. So, hey guys, for various reasons, we kept the internet reality. Is that what? Internal.
Reality.
That is not a T at the end.
I'm going to zoom this in for Levi and his old eyes.
My terrible eyesight. My 30-year-old eyes. Thanks, buddy.
There you go, mate. My fresh 29-year-old eyes, sorry, are so much better than yours, apparently. Even though I'm zooming it to like 900 fucking times. Sorry.
I really do need to see an optician.
You probably
I've never
should.
seen an optician in my entire life.
Are you serious?
I mean...
Are you that blind you haven't seen the optician when you've went?
Have you met my parents? You think that they were worried about taking me to fucking opticians and shit? And
Fair. I care not to comment.
It's not that my parents were anti-vaxxers. They just couldn't be asked, you know?
Anti-arsers.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'll try that again. Hey, guys, for various reasons, we kept the internal reality of our business dealings with Frank quiet, primarily to focus on not damaging the perception of our brand in its infancy and to figure out how to deal with the damage that Frank has caused.
So right away, you've not even got a paragraph out the way and you've went, it was him.
Well, it's also like we decided to not do this to help not damage the perception of our brand. Your brand perception wasn't being damaged. You decided to not make comment to save it from happening, but then you decided to make comment anyway.
Yeah, much after it had dropped.
Long story short, by early March, we paid Frank the full deposit amount necessary to complete 51 guitars by April 15th, an amount and deadline that he set. Frank told us this amount encompassed all materials, labour and shop overhead, i.e. rent, utilities and even equipment maintenance. After missing the first deadline, Frank informs us that he's broke due to cost overruns. This bugs me. That's in quotes, cost overruns. Is that an actual quote? And if so, why not just provide a screenshot of that?
It's character assassination.
And over-purchasing parts for future builds. He asked for further funding to continue the builds. This made no sense. I mean, this isn't a statement then at this point. If you're putting this made no sense, this is you telling us your opinion on things. It's because that, my understanding, and it's not an understanding, this is public knowledge, but Frank was a partner in the business, right? He was a shareholder. He owned part of the business. So It's not him asking for further money from you to do his job. It's the business needs to spend more money so the business can make money.
Yes.
Anyway, I'll try not to interject so much.
You should. I think it's good to break it up that way because at least that way we're addressing all the points fresh.
Yeah. This made no sense. When pressed for receipts of what he'd spent the deposit money on, he told us he was uncomfortable with our line of questioning and that he would have a stress heart attack if we continued to ask for answers, and you can't walk into Seymour Duncan and ask for receipts to see how much they've spent on copper wire.
The point about the stress heart attack probably is quite fair. If you're trying to build 51 guitars and struggling with parts, etc., and constantly are being asked and distracted, then maybe that'd be quite hard on you.
Yeah.
It's already a lot of stress to build those guitars, really meet expectations and push things forward, and I think the rest of it's just silly speculation. Yeah.
I mean, with the essentially what this is coming down to, and it's stupid on Tosin's part, is this defamation is a very, very, very hard thing to win at in court. You need to, the only way you're going to win a defamation lawsuit, I'm speaking like I'm a lawyer here, but to be fair, I follow a lot of lawyers, right? There are certain examples of speech that would be classed as defamation per se, meaning there's no argument to be made here. That falls under, this is clear-cut defamation. And an example of defamation per se would be accusing someone of a crime publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And Tosin is about to go on and do exactly that. So unless there is strong evidence to back up the fact that these crimes have been committed, then what we've got here is defamation per se.
Yeah, and the absence of evidence is not evidence itself.
Perfect, yep. I just have to look at it and I'm like, look, if you're so confident that you can publicly defame someone like this, why has this not just resulted in a lawsuit? Like, Frank's still there in his shop, isn't he? Like, his shop still exists. Frank still has a business. So
we'll get to that further on because there's more to that.
Yeah, fair. Okay.
That point.
So, this was a serious red flag to us. There's no honest excuse for not having proper accounting or receipts for purchases in any properly run organisation, especially to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. Eventually, Frank agrees to disclose every expense he could manifest that went towards Abasi builds. He falls tens of thousands of dollars short and eventually admits to taking at least $15,000 for personal use, although our accounting shows a deficit almost twice that amount.
So that right falls into what you were saying there about per se.
Yeah.
Like that's defamation.
It's also not a quote. Like, again, not a quote at all. And as we're going to see, we're going to go on and, they actually do include screenshots of texts and things. So they are right to present evidence when it suits. The only reason I say that is because, look, when I read this, I said it doesn't look good for Frank. And I didn't reach out to Frank. Frank actually reached out to me to say, have you seen this? And I said, yeah, I'll be honest, mate, it doesn't look good for you. And I spoke to some mutual friends and they were like, yeah, that doesn't look good at all. My default position wasn't just to take Frank's side, and I'm not. Like, to be super clear, I'm not saying one side or the other is right and wrong in it, because there's just no way to know. But I think that's literally the point. When you watch a lot of my videos, a lot of it isn't necessarily about taking a side, though sometimes I will do that. It's just encouraging people to think a little bit more fucking critically about things.
Yes.
Everybody is jumping to conclusions here without really being presented with a whole lot of evidence.
And I think that goes to what we said before we even started reading that whole. There's a lot more to it than I think we'll know at the moment.
This may all absolutely be true, and if Tosin comes forward with screenshots of Frank admitting to having pocketed that money, I'll be the first person to stand up and say, "Hi, Frank's an arsehole." But I personally don't feel that I can conclude that quite yet.
No, of course not.
Doesn't look good, though. Doesn't look good. Anyway, he took money off the top while leaving the most expensive components, i.e. fisherman pickups, stainless steel fret wire, etc., left unpurchased in the balance, along with the remaining thousands of dollars needed for labour and rent at his shop. He later willfully and knowingly ordered those parts or services, having already embezzled money needed to pay for them, leaving us with a bill. So embezzled, you've used the term there. He began ghosting on his workers, and when they asked for payment of completed work, there's a screenshot. No need to bring that up. It's essentially just someone texting Tosin or Ivan, basically saying, "Look, I've not heard from Frank in a while. I've sent an invoice. Am I getting paid?" Cool. This is a classic story of a luthier taking deposit money and not building guitars with the money, a situation we explicitly explained to Frank we never wanted to end up in. Frank could no longer be trusted to receive lump sums of money due to money to spend on guitars. We decided to withhold any further payments to Frank and took it upon ourselves to order and pay for the missing materials, as well as his labourers, for months in order to try and finish these guitars. Can I jump in and say that something doesn't add up now then?
You can jump in at any point, and I would love to hear what you're going to say.
Cool. So, there's a couple of paragraphs between these things that I feel, unless I've got a misunderstanding of the timeline, but things that don't add up. Like here, it's talked about like he's placed orders for components and then left us with the bill. And then later on, going on to say that he's not paying his staff, but then here saying we took up paying the staff. So staff, we're getting. I just really, to fully understand this, and again, we can't know this, and nobody that reads this could know this, but short of understanding how their business was structured, there's just I look at that and I'm like, right, okay, so one person that owned part of the business wasn't paying the employees, so somebody else in the business that owned part of the business was paying the employees. So basically, the business was paying the employees. Yeah,
and to speculate, I would imagine that Frank was chiefly tasked with building the guitars, not anything to do with the finances in that respect in terms of payroll or whatever. I don't know what Tosin or the other partners were, what their roles were explicitly, but I don't imagine the man who's in charge of building the guitars would have been also in charge of paying the staff and working out that finance side, especially when he's talking about, or the statement says, sorry, not that's spoken about, Frank could no longer be trusted to receive lump sums of deposit money to spend on guitars, and we decided to withhold any further payments to Frank. But Frank's not holding the purse strings then, is he? How's he going to...
Well, I mean, I can see potentially the way of dealing with things was they were operating as two separate businesses, and Abasi Concepts, Abasi Guitars, were paying Falbo Designs as a company to build the guitars. And it just so happens that Frank happened to own part of Abasi Guitars as well. I mean, that's what you might deduce from this, and I can see that potentially being the case. But yeah, all speculation.
But if that was the case, then it would fall under the line of work or under the line that it would again fall into. I would assume it would become a legal matter, because that's one company not paying a contractor / another company for goods or services.
Yep. And this isn't mentioned here, but what we do know, because there was a public statement before, is that a settlement was reached between both parties. And, they parted ways. So Frank used to own part of the business. Who knows how much? He now no longer owns that. Now, I just like it's standard practice in a situation like that for there to be some sort of non-disclosure agreement, some sort.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
not
To
being able
protect
to
your
talk about the terms of what that settlement was or
intellectual
whatever.
property and stuff as well, because obviously if you've got a stake in that business, you're responsible for whatever royalties, profits, blah blah blah.
Who knows? There could have been no compete clauses. Like there was literally no way to know because there must have been some sort of non-disclosure, which this must fly in the face of. It must do.
You would think so.
If they signed some sort of settlement agreement that allowed for the two of them to, well, Frank hasn't done it yet, but he's going to need to at some point, the two of them to then go on a public character assassination of each other. Like, that's just, what lawyers drafted this up?
I mean, the thing is, though, if it's been drafted and it should have been airtight and Tosin's the one that's broken it, then he's kind of just given Frank freedom to put his case forward with no legal repercussion unless he starts going in the same way.
Yeah.
By the looks of things, I don't know. I am not good at law. I've never had any problems with the law, so I've never had to really involve myself.
Sure.
And I know that you have a vested interest.
Yeah.
What shall we say?
Yeah. So, but the thing is, like, looking at this situation, I just, like, for there to have been some sort of settlement in place, that means lawyers have already been involved.
Yes.
And I just figure that if you're saying to your lawyers, we're parting way with this guy because there's 15 grand or however much like money that he's admitted to pocketing, he's just taken from the business, and it was you that pointed this out, that if it was Abasi guitars dealing with Falbo guitars, then that's a contract issue and there's a further legal claims there. Like, this has been taken from one company and into another, and it shouldn't have been. Like, again, why would you settle? Like, surely there'd just be a lawsuit.
There's obviously bad blood somewhere, because you wouldn't shake hands and be like, right, we'll go our own ways and that's it.
Yeah.
If there wasn't something
Especially
else
if not just like someone's of the opinion that you've stolen from me. If you literally say to me, oh yeah, I took that money, I wanted it for myself and you're not getting it back. And I go, cool, well, it was nice doing business with you. Like,
yeah, so there better be some sort of settlement when we part ways.
Yeah.
To go with the money that you stole.
And again, like, total speculation here, because I don't know. I don't know what Frank's deal was. I don't know what the settlement was, but we do know that Frank owned some of the business.
Yeah, he was a partner.
We don't know how much.
No.
But, I mean, I can't see him having left without getting paid off.
That's what I mean. Like, why would you, if you are brazenly saying this man stole for the company and admitted it to Tosin's face, why would Tosin then be happy to settle, i.e. pay him money to relinquish his stock or his interest in the business?
Unless, of course, it were a case that the settlement was, look, you've admitted to taking this money. As part of the settlement, we will write off the money that you've taken as us buying your share of the company back.
Potentially, yeah.
But then if that were the case, he's not stolen 15 grand from you. Like, the books are even again.
Yes, you've agreed that legally.
It's just... the whole thing just seems crazy to me.
I think there's a lot of red herrings in this.
Yeah.
Intentional or unintentional. There seems to be a lot of kind of
Yeah.
weird smoke and mirrors from what I can pick up on it.
So in August, weeks before the 5th missed deadline, we received a picture of an eviction notice served by the Ventura County Sheriff's Department declaring imminent forcible removal and seizure of assets within Frank's shop. Seems Frank had not paid his rent since we started working together. Information he knowingly and willfully withheld from us, along with not holding a valid business license, which is illegal. Now, that actually is something that I did, when I spoke to Frank, I did want to ask about that, because, I said basically, look, Frank, there's a few key allegations that he makes in this, and that's probably one of them. And if the answer to that is yes, like you don't hold a valid business license and you've been operating illegally, then I'm not really interested in helping you, because I'm just going to look stupid, And it seems that, people digging on the forums, they found that Frank Falbo Designs has as an LLC, is a registered business, but their license has been suspended.
Okay.
But Frank didn't go too much into that with me, but he said words along the lines of, you do know I have more than one registered business, right? So it might not be the smoothest way of dealing with it. I'm sure he's probably covered, though. I'm sure he's like...
If there's been lawyers involved already, then that's quite a weird thing to throw in the face.
Yeah.
Because you would then be admitting that you that was a complete oversight on your part when you just went into business together.
Yeah. So, again, it seems like just very odd.
Yeah, and at that point, he's also included evidence of the eviction notice, which I...
Also worth pointing out that is a real eviction notice. We have seen it, but Frank is still in that shop, so rent has been paid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to make. I just don't know what to make of it, mate.
There's so much of it that you don't know, and you can't take for certain.
Now, this next part, I'd heard this from insiders, right? So at this point, and I'd heard lots of conflicting versions of this story. Right?
Mm-hmm. I've heard a few myself.
Police were about to lock up all of our property inside of Frank's shop. We decided to remove all of our assets that we paid for and seek to complete them elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the alleged heist where they went into... I hope they make a movie of this one day, like a dramatic reenactment.
Abasi's 11?
Oh, mate, that makes me so... I was going to go with like the Italian heist type thing, where them driving around in shitty Mini Coopers with like Audi stamps on the front of them. But yeah, Abasi's 11 going on their heist to take all of their equipment out of Frank's shop. Now, to be fair to them, yeah, totally the right thing to do. If you genuinely believe that the shop's going to be seized and all of the property in the shop is going to be seized, then I do see that you would have to go in and take things to stop them from being seized from you.
But at the same time, if those are legally owned by that company and you can say they're yours, then surely they would be relieved from being seized. I was saying that if Frank's got part of the business, that might not be the case.
Yeah.
So,
and also, if the shop was registered Falbo Designs and, the guitars actually belong to... we don't know what the contract was. Maybe technically Falbo Designs owned them until they were completed and then passed to Abasi Guitars. There's just no way to know. But I can see why, that they're trying to cover their ass.
Yeah, it's understandable. Any business that's trying its hardest to... And at this point, it's still in its infancy, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They've had, one major order with prototypes and still building their first real run of guitars, then of course they're going to try their hardest to make sure things go smooth and there's not any teething problems that there doesn't need to be and whatever else. Yeah, so...
But we had heard stories that in that heist, some equipment was taken that wasn't Abasi Guitars property.
No, and that's not really been addressed yet. Sorry, I'm having a bit of problems with this mic. The stand seems to be at it. That's
ultimately why there's a lot of talk about like a police report and surveillance footage of this heist and things being taken that definitely should not have been taken. This is an annoying one because people keep saying the same thing, which is, well, show us the surveillance footage, right? And I want to see that too, to be fair. I would like to see the surveillance footage. But also, unfortunately, if the response to that is, well, currently that's part of a police report, that's evidence in a police report, then it's not like you can just go and post that.
No, of course not. It becomes inadmissible in court the minute you make it public.
Yeah. So it's just such, like, I don't doubt that there's a police report, whether or not there's any quality surveillance footage. Like, again, for all we know, maybe Tosin's, Abasi's 11, maybe they broke in and only took things that belonged to him.
Yes.
And then out of shock, Frank's filed a police report. And yeah, maybe that's how things went down. Or maybe they went in and they took literally everything. Maybe they took stuff that belonged to Frank. Like, we don't know. Maybe they took stuff that belonged to other parties that had stock in the shop, which is, I know, something that we'd heard.
That's the joys of the rumours, isn't it? You don't know.
Yeah.
Like, even parts getting lifted by accident or otherwise that were for potentially owned by Frank, but for different builds or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, regardless, it's a strange but almost understandable way to kind of deal with business. To basically re-seize your own assets. So,
but there's just no way you can go into a luthier's shop and say, we own that piece of wood, we own that piece of wood, and we own that piece of wood. Like, you just can't. True. So I'm sure there's a police report. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yes, and when it does eventually come out, which no doubt it will, that'll be interesting to talk about.
I don't think it will.
No, I
don't think it will. And the reason I don't think it will is because I think that because this is a rumour that we'd obviously heard about before it had been gone public.
Yeah.
We'd heard about this behind the scenes from people that knew both parties. I think the only reason that there might have been an amicable split might have been as a kind of, drop the theft thing. Leave that, and we'll leave this.
All right, so like kind of like a mutual. Neither's have been perfect here. Let's just fucking wipe the slate. That okay, yeah. That's another. There's about 90 different options here that could be the truth.
But everyone's only coming to one conclusion.
Yeah, I mean it's understandable because a lot of people don't have or haven't heard the other rumours and don't.
Yeah.
But like I mean, as you said yourself, you want to know what the truth is, and people have reached out to you or had done before in Frank's defence and put you in touch with him to talk to him. You are very critically rational. We all know that. And it was good of Frank to understand that you would speak to him and you would be honest with him and you would be honest about what your thoughts are on it. So,
oh yeah, that first call, I didn't go into that expecting to be kind.
No.
To Frank. Like, I think actually the way we were introduced was a mutual friend said, "Oh, I've just got a message from Frank. He knows that I know you, and he's saying that you're a liar." And I was like, "What? Nobody calls me a liar."
Beep.
And he's like, he's wondering if you want to talk to him. I was like, "Damn right, I want to talk to him.
Yeah,
call me a liar."
Which I think that was all over the misunderstanding of Frank's posts, the original ones on the forums when people were asking about the gaps in the lacquer and blah blah blah, and was it the buffing compound that hadn't been wiped off and that kind of stuff. And I think one of his questions along is, what is it you think you're seeing here and all that and that's where it all came from.
Yeah.
And it's easy for that to happen when you've got like people messaging over forums and stuff. You can't really deduce tone.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to misunderstand what the actual context of someone saying something is, what the intent is.
Yeah.
So
I'll keep going. So Frank had shown his character and deemed himself completely untrustworthy.
That is character assassination.
Yeah. Any business with him was out of the question. 5 missed deadlines, tens of thousands of dollars in embezzled deposit monies, and numerous quality control issues are beyond reason enough to sever the relationship. And then a few examples of quality control issues.
Is that the same ones that they defended before? Oh no, sorry, this isn't. This is the ones with the...
But you make an excellent point there, Mike.
Yeah.
Like my issue, the reason we had a conversation with Frank was these pictures came up, and I was like, these are unacceptable. These are bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came on to kind of try and defend them. But now it seems that nobody's really defending them.
No, not at all.
Everyone's accepting that they were garbage.
Kind of. I mean, I think it's more like a he said, she said, oh, that wasn't me, this isn't you, blah, blah, blah. The original ones we saw are the ones we were speaking about there, which was like what looked like a gap between the neck and the neck pocket on the body. The buffing compound, holes in the wood of the fretboard at the side where the side dots were. Like little touches that could have been cleaned up. On a prototype, you would want it to be perfect.
Yeah.
But we know the scenario with the prototypes were that the guitar was still being worked on and developed to be as good as it could be throughout NAMM. So you're going to have these wee things.
Yep.
People are going to see small faults while you're still working on the guitar. And I don't think it's uncommon for people to build the guitar and get it specification-wise perfect and then worry about the finish and all that kind of stuff and making it look good and covering up those maybe little blemishes. And maybe that was the day that hadn't happened. I don't know. But these images...
The new ones.
Yeah, they're a completely different kettle of fish. It's like when you read further on, they're talking about the guitars having to go elsewhere to be repaired at cost to Abasi Designs or Abasi Concept, sorry. And like the speculation is that for one of them, the one I saw was like a trem cavity for where the back of the Floyd Rose would sit was like miles off of where it should be, and it to be recut and retrofit and all that kind of stuff. Like those are like massive changes to the guitar that I would imagine guitars being built at this level would be CNC routed, and you would have to really get it wrong for the CNC to be wrong that way.
Yeah, it's definitely... I mean, the thing that's worth mentioning with these quality control videos that you may have seen is there is a huge difference between look at this piece of shit that we took out of someone's shop. Mm-hmm. As in the workshop. Look at this piece of shit we took out of someone's workshop versus look at this piece of shit that we took out of a retail store.
Oh, totally. And just to add to the point I was talking about, a guitar still in development at NAMM to show off the product as a prototype is going to have flaws.
Yeah.
There's not many prototypes that come out that are perfect. That's just not the nature of a prototype.
These are far from, like, you wouldn't describe these as a little bit off, but
no, of course not.
But reasonable prototypes. But like, if you're building something and something goes terribly wrong, like you put a massive scratch in the back of a guitar, right? Okay, you fucked it. Now what? Set fire to the wood? No, you just chuck it in the corner of a shop and it just sits there to gather dust, you know?
Yeah. Or you find a way to repair it, and that becomes something that's B stock, or I don't know.
Bingo. So until
or
this
an
is in a
artist
shop,
guitar or something, somebody that doesn't give a fuck about a scratch in the back, but the rest of it's great.
Yeah.
Common sense.
But if you built something and it was, you know, a steaming pile of shit, and you just put it in the corner to forget about, it's not going out, it's never leaving the shop. But then Abasi's 11 rocks up and takes everything.
And they assume that's
and then looks at it and goes, look at this. Like, it just...
Yeah.
It's not acceptable quality. Like, scratches like that shouldn't be happening in guitars, and trem cavities shouldn't end up looking like that.
But that wasn't a finished product. It was put out from the workshop.
Yeah, this is an opportunity that's being thrown right in the middle of a character assassination.
Yeah.
And it does, like, to be fair, I looked at the picture and I looked at the video, and like I say, it was like, I mean, that is pretty unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if that showed up as an order, like, that'd be unacceptable. But
is it fair to say that we don't know what condition that was in when it left the workshop?
True. Yeah.
Because, as you said yourself, you can't walk in and go, "There's that wood's mine, that wood's mine." Yeah. You don't know what condition that would have been in.
Yeah.
Whether it had been anything that happened to it, it's really hard to say. Like, I don't. The only brands you would imagine that don't have that problem are people like Gibson, who literally just fuck the guitars into a fucking skip. Like, I mean, they've well done that with most of their stock, but this one's bad off the line. Bang! And you've seen the pictures of it, no doubt you've seen them before, but the guitars are like sawed in half or beat to shit with hammers, so they can't be salvaged because they are not fit to be sent out the workshop. Or
no, that's a really good point, that, actually.
Like, only the bigger builders are going to be able to do that because they can afford the overhead of going, well, fuck that.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that when you're a small builder with a niche kind of product, and you're building the prototypes. You've got a lot of money invested into not only parts but the woods themselves, because you're going with boutique woods and the finishing. You're going to try and salvage it.
Yeah.
You're going to try and make good from what it is, or keep it yourself, or whatever happens. But you're not just going to be like, fuck it, chop it in half.
I love that point though, mate. Like, because you're right. Like, companies will just saw a guitar in half, so it.
I've seen Perry do that.
Or bash the shit out of a guitar so it can't be so you can't do anything with it. And to me, this is the equivalent of finding a guitar in a workshop, like, smash the shit with a hammer, like all these big dents in it, so it's like a write-off. And then you pick it up and going, look how much they look after their guitars in this shop.
Yeah.
It's just not representative of things. We can't really comment on any representation of any of these guitars because none of them got made. Or like 1 or 2 in Japan, but I think 16 guitars maybe exist or something like that.
Have we seen any pictures of the finished ones? No, because I've
the
never seen
Japan ones the original ones that we were like, the qualities doesn't look where it should be.
Well, I've only ever seen pictures of the one, and that's the one that brought up the initial quality control queries. I've never seen any other of the guitars. There might be 16 out there. One had a couple of flaws, blemishes, whatever you want to call it. The other 15 might be the best guitars that have ever been built. Yeah. But it's not very objective for them not to be mentioned. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. We took it upon ourselves to refund everyone with an outstanding order out of our personal pockets. The incomplete builds that were salvageable were completed in Japan and delivered to buyers. The costs necessary to complete this purchase order and save our relationship with our Japanese dealers and distributors equated in a total loss of profit for the orders to us. This, coupled with the fact that we have been unable to take new orders since May of 2018, means Abasi Concepts did not generate a single dollar of profit since inception.
So that's the only reasons why it didn't make money. It's all Frank's fault. That's a bit of a finger pointing.
Yeah, ultimately in a business, everyone is involved. Everyone that owns the share of the business is involved.
Of course. And if you can't take responsibility for your own business, you shouldn't be in business. Unless
Frank's somehow the majority owner of Abasi and owns like 70% of the company or whatever, and I'm sure that probably isn't the case. Just make sure your ducks are in a row. Keep track of things that are happening. We took it upon ourselves to refund everybody with an outstanding order. I mean, you were taking up until like a few months ago, I could have just gone on Abasi's website and ordered a custom shop guitar and just paid for it there and then. Like, where did that money go? Was that going in Frank's pocket, or was that going in the business's pocket?
But it wasn't going in Frank's, because before this I've already told them they wouldn't give any money.
Yeah. So exactly. So like, you didn't. Did you refund it out of your pocket, or did you just give them the money back that they'd given you?
Yeah, that's literally how it works.
Yeah.
Unless you're not running your business right and you're actually embezzling your own funds, because it can't come out your own pocket. You need to keep the funds separate.
But now we come to the real issue. This is what this is about.
This is where the handbags have came from.
Yeah. After all this, he announces a new ERG line of guitars.
No. New, for those that are listening and not watching, there's some ear brackets there. A new, I mean like total fucking Mean Girls bitchy, new ERG line.
Sorry, a new ERG line of guitars that is clearly a reworked version of our CAD files.
Shame on you, those CAD files that Tosin didn't design.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure someone involved with the company has taken Tosin's ideas and put them into the CAD files, but ultimately the company will own those.
Yeah, it's his intellectual property, no doubt about it, or at least the businesses it will be.
But the key word here is reworked.
Yeah.
Like it I agree. Like, have you seen these guitars?
No.
Okay.
I haven't, to be honest.
Let me bring them up for you.
I mean, are Fender going to be suing everybody that makes a Strat copy? Because they've got a reworked guitar? Is that fair to say? Or is it more so that they're similar to what came from the Abasi designs? Sorry, I'm curious to see these guitars.
Frank sent me one in a message, so I'll just pull it up from there.
Okay.
Keep talking.
Okay. At this point, I really don't know where I stand on the full scenario, because there is so many questions that I don't know how to ask, and so many points that I don't actually know how to address still in the air. Like, and I think it's even harder, as you said, like, Frank's taking the high road and doesn't want to bring light to it. He's just wanting to do his own thing and just move on with it and not be taking this as serious as it needs to be, because or to get past it and not deal with it. But I don't know where I stand. I'm really struggling.
This is Frank playing one.
Okay, right. So it's somewhere between the concepts and like a Goliath or any sort of super strat shape.
Yep. And so these are shots that Frank sent me of some of his builds.
Okay. I mean, to be fair to him, that looks pretty beautiful, and it doesn't look necessarily like it could have only been from the Abasi concept stuff. That looks like a Nathan Shepherd guitar, or one of these. There's so many builders that have got strange body shapes.
Yeah. And it's also worth pointing out a redesigned, reworked version of the CAD files. What, like the Abasi guitars were just slight reworkings of the Ibanez. Mm-hmm. It's just like, we're going to do the more story later in the episode, and there's a big difference between like imitating and copying.
Yes.
Imitating and literally taking what someone else has done, using their design and trying to market it as your own. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this I totally get it. This is what's pissed Tosin off. This is why this has happened. He's pissed off that Frank, like, they've parted ways. They've agreed to just let bygones be bygones, and now Frank has his own ERG line of guitars. Like, why would that piss you off? Don't worry about it, Tosin. Just don't worry, mate. Like, people aren't going to buy a Falbo guitar in place of buying an Abasi guitar.
Because you can't buy an Abasi guitar.
Yeah. But, if they want to play one of Tosin's guitars, they're buying it because it's Tosin's guitars.
Yeah. And
this isn't a substitute.
No, you're right. And imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, if that's how you feel Frank's went about this, that he's just wanting to copy what you're doing. Which I don't think so. And I think the next paragraph, the last sentence, is kind of where I lose respect for what Tosin's trying to get at. Because it's just, again, I just feel as if it's really kind of character assassinate. Like, this is something you would never have done if it wasn't for me. Like,
this is just... also this paints Tosin in the worst light, but not, I don't think, for the reason why you're going to say. Previously to our relationship with Frank, Falbo Designs had only produced acoustic and semi-hollow guitars, no extended range guitars, no multi-scale guitars, no headless guitars. Everything present in the new line of guitars is leached off his former relationship with Abasi. Well, to be fair to Frank, he had only done acoustic and semi-hollow guitars, but he had done extended range and multi-scale acoustics, I believe. So
yeah, and if that's the reason why you want to character assassinating, why did you pick him as your main luthier
Yes.
to prototype them?
Yes, that is exactly, that is, like, to me, you look stupid there, Tosin. Like, our issue with this from day one was, why did you go with Frank? Why did you have to do this the expensive way? Why didn't you do what Chapman did, or what Solar Guitars did, or who else has their own guitars? Like, the people out there, that's the done thing. We were speculating that Loomis would end up playing a Solar because, like, it just makes business sense, although he went with Jackson. But, you know...
Better business sense, I suppose, for him.
We're looking at this and it's like, cool, so you wanted to release the best guitars possible, somebody that could bring your vision to life. And you went with someone who, by your own admission, has no experience building extended range guitars, no multi-scale guitars, no headless guitars. But he's our guy, though.
And in the face of objectivity, it could be the case that Frank builds some unbelievable electric guitars, because it'd be reasonable to deduce that if you are good at building acoustic guitars, which are much more fragile, and obviously have to be very resonant and have to play well to function in the first place, you would think they would build an electric guitar quite well, but they're different animals, and it's almost like you're saying it's Frank's fault because he'd never done that. Like, well, why did you get into partnership if that was a concern of yours?
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I'm laughing because I'm looking at the next line. We had hoped to handle this internally because our priority is to simply provide you guys with awesome guitars. Let's jump back to that previous one. Previous to our relationship with Frank Falbo, he had only ever produced acoustic and semi-hollow guitars, no extended range guitars, no multi-scale guitars, no headless guitars. Now I'll go back to that other paragraph. Our priority is simply to provide you guys with awesome guitars. Those two things just don't coexist.
Nope.
That's not to say that Frank isn't capable of doing an amazing guitar, but
Definitely.
if your only priority is to provide guys with awesome guitars, why don't you go the proven route?
Mm-hmm.
Just an idea.
It's just... There's so many things that you need to look at and go, like, but you're arguing about 75 different points against the guy.
Yeah.
As if it's all his fault. Like, you have to take responsibility as, I'd imagine now, the majority stakeholder in the business, if you weren't already, for decisions that you have made as part of that business. Let's keep going. So, you want me?
No. So our silence in this matter doesn't seem to be serving us any longer because of the rumours flying around. Disagree. There were no rumours flying around. This situation was put to bed. Again, You're just annoyed that Frank's released his own run of guitars.
Yep, and it's nothing to do with serving you, because was being silent good for you? Was that doing you favours? I mean, we're not going to tell anybody why that the company basically isn't happening at all anymore, and that's a good thing for us. Yeah. How can that be good for Abasi Concepts for you not to have a reason, like a public and clear reason why you're not trading with the guitars anymore? Yeah. How's that going to help when people are asking about pedals and with no disrespect to Brian Wampler, like, people might be concerned that business relationship might break down as well, like it did with Frank? Do you know what I mean? Like, silence isn't good in a business. Transparency is good.
But it's also worth pointing out that, like, it doesn't seem to be serving us any longer. Where's the damage from Frank releasing this guitar? Like, are people not buying the Abasi Concepts Pathos, the Wampler pedal? No, people are buying that in droves. People are all over that. Are people not interested in what you're working on with Grover Jackson? Of course they are. Like, there's plenty of buzz surrounded this. The saddest part about this, and this is really the sad part, and this is probably going to annoy Tosin and annoy Frank and annoy any luthier out there, right? The most relevant thing that Abasi Guitars, Abasi Concepts will ever do now is this. This is going to get you more people are going to read this and have an opinion on this than you're ever going to sell guitars. Ever.
Mm-hmm.
What is the hope of this? This is not going to convince anybody that wasn't going to buy an Abasi guitar to now buy one. It absolutely will convince some people that were going to buy an Abasi guitar to not buy one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they can't anyway now.
And what this can absolutely do is convince somebody that was going to buy a Falbo guitar to not buy a Falbo guitar. And that is the purpose of this.
Yep, the next sentence literally is that.
Given our experience with Frank, we seriously caution anyone who is considering buying a guitar from him. Our experience with him is not unique, and we have talked to a handful of other people who have similar gripes with Falbo and are willing to come forward in solidarity if need be.
First of all, you're basically saying do not buy a guitar from this man because you can't trust him. Sorry, that's not for you to say. It might be a fair warning from a customer, but for someone who has had a business relationship with him that's broken down with no real clear evidence of what's going on, and obviously a bit of ambiguity, whether that's down to an NDA or whether that's down to ongoing legal processions or a lack of evidence, I don't know. You can't just say don't buy for them because it makes you sound petty, and it's really, really unprofessional and irresponsible.
Yeah. Like, I said this to you when you came around, like, I do feel bad for Frank right now because he can't win in this situation. Tosin's extremely popular, so people have already made their minds up. Frank can't really defend himself in this situation. He can take. I don't think he has taken the high road by not saying anything. I think he thinks he's taken the high road, but I don't think it's going to work in the way he's hoping either. But like, I know what it's like to have people go after your job. I know what it's like to have people go after the thing that you use to put a roof over your head and to provide for your family.
Aye.
And it's not right. It's not right. Tosin cannot say, you can't trust Frank to build you a guitar, because you cannot say from your dealings with Frank that Frank can't build a single guitar for a single person. This is exactly what I said from day one. What was the number here at the top? 50, 57 or something like that?
51.
51. Frank can't build 51 guitars. I know that. I said that from day one. Like, he doesn't have the infrastructure and experience to go about building 51 guitars for anyone. In the same way that TTM guitars aren't capable of building all those guitars for people, which is why, of all of their artists that have paid all of their money, none of them have got a guitar yet.
So, is that true?
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Oh, that's another story for another day, isn't it?
Mate, in 2 days, my agreement with those guys expires. And unless a guitar from those guys appears on my doorstep in the next 2 days, my videos go back up and I start talking about TTM guitars again. Because I still don't have let's be clear, I'm not expecting the guitar to shut me up. It was why don't I send you a guitar and you can review it, you can check it out, and you can see the quality of what we're building.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm willing to do that.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't want it. Like, I'll check it out, I'll tell people what I think of it, and then I'll send it back to you. I've not. Nothing's come my way, and nothing's come any of their artists' ways, because as a company, TTM Guitars, Lance Benedict, just has no idea at this stage how difficult it's going to be to start up a company building, mass-producing guitars in the United States.
Yeah, no longer just buying them from shipping containers worth from China.
Yeah, so crazy one, but there we go. So
madness, total madness.
Like I say, not making a conclusion any side. When I read this, although I think it looks terrible on Frank, and it certainly makes me question a lot of things that me and Frank have talked about in the past, it just seems so poor form to me.
Mm-hmm. And as the old saying goes, it all comes out in the wash.
Love the drama though, love it.
Oh, it gives us something to talk about, doesn't it?
I mean, I've been following the thread on the 7-string forums, like just F5 in it every 5 minutes, just hoping there's going to be new posts and new dirt, because it's interesting. It is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a lot of opinions and a lot of bullshit through that. I think the last paragraph in this is quite so unprofessional. Forums
I was going to leave it, but fair, because I've got a thought on it. Forums like this one are important because we can look out for each other as a community. As unfortunate as this story is, it's not new. We've all seen it before. We're warning you because we wish somebody had warned us. Hang on. We can look out for each other as a community. So why weren't you looking out for everyone as a community when those guitars were going out to Japan and they weren't good enough?
We can look after each other as a community after we look after ourselves in our own personal interest. Essentially what you're saying there is, or the way I interpret this post, it's a deliberate attempt to discredit anything that Frank can say back to this, because it means that if his points and his comments are dismissed, then they don't have to be taken legitimately. In fairness, right? Fairness to Tosin, he has risen above calling Frank a Nazi. So usually the way to discredit someone is just call them a Nazi enough, and then no one will listen to what he's tried. He's done something similar just keep calling him untrustworthy, and now it won't matter when Frank comes back to try to defend himself because he's untrustworthy. So and that's it. And he's done it like an us and them kind of thing. It's like, us on the forum don't trust Frank.
Yeah.
But anyone that does trust Frank, oh well, we're warning you.
Yeah.
We're cautioning you seriously. We've seen it before.
Forums, us together as a collective, you know.
What do you contribute to
I'm one
that
of you
forum,
guys.
Tosin, other than trying to sell things?
Yeah.
That's a legitimate question. I've never really frequented
I believe he has
7string.org.
like 40 posts.
All right, cool. And how many of them are him blowing his own trumpet or selling something? Is he on there posting, giving lessons and stuff for free?
Oh
No, I
my
didn't
God,
think so.
spicy. Cool.
I don't like hypocrisy in that respect. And I certainly don't like when someone who's trying to sell a product and has a breakdown in a professional relationship make out like he is a victim and then try and basically make it like a war on someone.
Yep.
Anyway,
Let's
fuck them for
let's
now.
move on. This one's. I mean, it's not actually going to be that long an episode, but
No.
I think that section was so good. I'm going to make that its own little video on
Yes.
YouTube. So
Yes.
yeah. So for those of you watching on YouTube, check back for the next part. But for those of us listening on audio services such as SoundCloud and iTunes and Spotify, we're on Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
You keep listening, guys. If you are watching on YouTube, go and check us out on one of those services.
Yeah. So for those that are listening, haha, you're stuck with us.